Okay, if you are in a position where you're trying to determine which is the better option, bankruptcy or settling debts, please check the comments below this video, or the description rather, below this video on YouTube. I'm going to link a couple of articles that will be very helpful to you in making that decision and extremely informative to maybe offer you some options. Of course, I'm trying to catch people before they end up in this position, and that's why I've dedicated a video to how to pay down debt and some of the methods for doing that. Now, I realize, guys, that sometimes you just end up on the shit end of the stick, so to speak, and due to job loss or whatever, and so it's not always possible to stay on top of your debts and whatnot. And so sometimes you have to triage those debts, and I've dedicated a video to how to do that for those short-term situations. But if you're in a long-term kind of nightmare scenario of just a perfect storm of stuff, really, sometimes the only way that you can get help is to actually be behind on your debts. A case in point is, for instance, your mortgage. If you've suffered a job loss or divorce or an illness or something that's made you fall behind on your mortgage, well, you have to be in a sweet spot to get any help on that. You have to be at least 1 month behind, but no more than 3 months behind. And if you're in that situation, you might be able to qualify for what they call a mortgage modification. Your lender might call it by a different name, but that's what it is. Now, if you have a car and you're behind on it, there's not a lot you could do. You could try and negotiate a little bit with your creditor on that, but for the most part, if you're 2 or 3 months behind, that car is probably going to get repossessed because it's a secured debt, and that's one of the courses of action that they can take. If you've got student loans, you do have a ton of options available to you, actually. You could pursue a forbearance or a deferment on those. You can also do an income-based repayment plan. It's very rare to see a student loan forgiven. There's only a few select specific circumstances where that'll take place. And you cannot include a student loan, as far as I know, in a bankruptcy. So if you're filing bankruptcy, yeah, you're still going to have to pay on those student loans, which is another reason why I'm not a super big fan of student loans, so I've talked about that in some of my videos. Now, so what am I talking about when it comes to settling debts? I'm primarily talking about credit cards and signature loans. And in order to be in that situation, you're going to have to be 3 months behind, have 3 months go by where you don't make payments on those. They usually will send you to collections at that point, and that's where the possibility of settling a debt comes into play. They can still sue you, but a lot of times you can delay those proceedings enough to try to work out something with that creditor. I'll give you, for instance, I've actually been in this situation. Well, they give you time limits to respond to the letters that they send, and you should respond, but only to the letters. When they send you the written information about the debt that you owe, if you're still in that situation, then you can respond back in some form. You can offer then to settle those debts. Or you can request proof of the debt, and that's another way that you can respond. And each time, it takes time. You can wait until the last minute to get that to them, make sure you've documented and everything. And then when they respond, well, that kind of resets that clock and gives you another course that you can pursue. Now, the key is being turned over to collections and building funds so that you have something to bargain with. If you have no way of building funds, well, then bankruptcy is probably going to be the way that you end up having to go. But if you've been able to start to get back to work and things of that nature where you're trying at least to build up some funds, or maybe you're expecting a tax refund, a bonus check from work, something that might help you to get out of the hole a little bit, well, then you've got leverage and you've got something that you can work with. Now, your debt keeps building regardless of whether you're making payments or not, because you're getting hit with late fees and you're getting hit with charges. You could settle those debts and end up saving money. You could settle usually for around 10 to 50% of the balance that you owe. The amount forgiven, however, then becomes something that the IRS looks at as taxable income. So they tax you on the amount of your debt that was forgiven. And of course, your credit score is going to take a hit. There's just no way around that, really. It's a given. It's going to happen. So, as compared to bankruptcy, though, when you settle a debt, it reflects on your credit for 7 years. When you file for bankruptcy, that reflects on your credit for 10 years. So there's a difference already right there. If you're pursuing a bankruptcy, well, then a lot of times you have to pay those lawyer fees and filing fees and everything up front. So that's an expense, and you might not have that cash available right then. Something that you do need to know, and that's very important, is you should never, ever use retirement funds to try to either pay down unsecured debt like credit cards or signature loans, or to use for your bargaining when you are trying to settle these debts. If things go south and you end up getting sued, taken to court, having garnishments against you, or having to file bankruptcy, well, things like a Roth and a 401k, they have protections to them. And so it is only in very rare circumstances that those things can be impacted. Otherwise, you don't want to tie those up trying to dig out of the hole. There are many other better options that don't require you to sacrifice your future. Now, with regard to bankruptcy, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is very invasive. You have to detail everything, and you may have to liquidate assets, liquidate things like jewelry, heirlooms, whatever, to try and rectify those things before you get bankruptcy relief. But if you successfully complete your bankruptcy, well, then you will have a clean slate, and your credit will start to repair and improve almost immediately. The other thing is, if you're trying to settle debts, it takes patience. It takes time to do everything. I talked about delay tactics a little bit, but the back and forth and everything can take time. And the whole time, you're getting harassed by the collections companies. You're getting phone calls. You're getting letters. It's very unpleasant. They might call you, try to reach you at work. So it takes patience, and it takes persistence, and it takes a little stubbornness if you're going to try and settle things. But the upside is that you might save some of your hard-earned money in the long run and get out of the hole that you're in without having to have it reflected on your credit report for 10 years, having to go through the bankruptcy process, having every single person that you might owe money be notified of your personal business, things of that nature. So guys, I hope this helps. I've barely scratched the surface, but if you have questions, if you're in this situation, reach out to me and I'll do what I can to offer some guidance and help. You can hit me up here on Twitch and Xbox. You can, as always, send me a message at fustyandfinance@gmail.com, which would probably be the most discreet way to approach this topic. Or you could put it in the comments below this video on YouTube if you so choose, and I will do what I can to get back with you.